Hi everyone, I'm Daria Varlamova, Miss Universe Australia finalist for 2021, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hi everyone, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project, and my special guest for today is an Australian with a not-so-Australian name, Daria Varlamova, who is a Miss Universe Australia 2021 finalist. Daria, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's about time that we did a sit down like this.
You are a very, very busy girl. I was just thinking the other day, I don't get to interview many Australian girls. And it's so funny because I've been doing my research. So I've been watching some of your Instagram TVs, anxiety diaries, etc. And you moved, correct me if I'm wrong, but you moved to Australia when you were 8, right? From Russia?
Yes, that's right. So
Okay.
I moved to Perth, Western Australia, and that's where I grew up, and I have been living in Melbourne for about 4.5 years.
Okay. It's just funny to me that someone who moved to Australia at the age of 8 has more of an Australian accent than I do. You have quite, I don't know if it's strong, but compared to most of the other people I interview, it's like, wow, that's really an Aussie accent. Um, so when you moved to Australia at the age of 8, did you speak any English or did you pick it up when you moved here?
No English, no word. So it was really difficult for me. I remember when I moved, my parents got told by the teachers that if I didn't pick it up within a month, I'd have to go to a special English as a second language school. But within a month, I was speaking really well, and I love to read books and write, and I love to talk. So naturally, I picked it up right away. And yeah, I guess the accent is a bit strange because there is a bit of an Aussie twang, but at the same time, some people say I sound a bit posh. I think that's a result of learning English as my second language, but I don't know what it is. It's a bit of a mishmash.
When you speak Russian, do you have an accent in Russian now?
Unfortunately, I'd like to think I didn't, that I don't when I speak Russian, but I know that my relatives and my family always tease me about it, and they say that there's very much a detectable accent.
Okay. So either way you go, then you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I know.
Um, My father told me, and I don't know if this is right, but he said that you are a genuinely fluent speaker when you dream in your second language, or you count and do maths in your second language. So, question, do you dream in Russian or do you dream in English?
That's a really interesting question because I I think some people dream in the language and some people dream in images. For me, it's almost purely image, but if there was dialogue in my dreams, I'd say it would be in English. And when I speak Russian, I find myself having to translate it from English to Russian. So I feel like I've definitely adopted the language as my primary language.
How often do you actually get to speak Russian?
So I actually speak Russian every day because I get on the phone with my grandma, or I try to every single day. So she can't speak any English, so I feel like it's a really great excuse for me to not only stay in touch with my family, but to also practice my Russian. And since moving to
Yeah.
Melbourne, I've found so many new Russian friends as well. But I get a little bit shy to talk Russian to them because they're a lot better than me.
So I actually studied a bit of Russian, but I
Did
have
you?
forgotten most of it. I think I can still count to 10. But how do you say hello in Russian? I was thinking about this the other day. I can't remember. How do you just say hello?
So you could say "Здрасте," or you could say "Привет," which is like hi, and that's what I generally
Привет.
teach people, the latter. "Привет." It's a lot easier to say.
That's the one. And now I'm remembering all the Cyrillic alphabet because when you're learning Russian, you have to learn the Cyrillic
Mm,
alphabet because there are some letters that look the same, but they mean very different things. How do you say, how
that
are you?
confuses me. Как дела? How are things? Как дела?
Okay. I don't think I learned that one. What does das vidanya mean? I hope I didn't say
It
anything
means
bad, but that
goodbye.
Okay. So I know how to say hello and goodbye. So привет and до свидания. Okay. All
Those are
right.
the only ones you need.
Well, that, and I can count to 10, but I don't know what use that's going to do me. Daria, why don't we start with the easy question? Why don't you tell us how you got into the crazy world of pageantry to begin with?
Yeah, so let's go back to when I was 19. I was starting to model, and a friend of mine told me about the Miss Universe program. And I saw some behind the scenes on social media and stuff back when Instagram was quite new and it was all about Facebook. So I think that was back in 2013. I actually tried out for Miss Universe Australia when I was in Perth. I didn't even make it to a state round, which is crazy to think about. When I try to imagine how far I've come in that time, it's just, it's there's been a lot of growth that has happened in those years, and I feel like those are such formative years, your late teens to your mid 20s.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I didn't get through to Miss Universe state levels at 19, and it did crush my spirit a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But I found that since moving to Melbourne, I took up acting and modeling, and that definitely gave me an extra boost in confidence. So I thought, you know what? While I'm still in the age bracket, I really want to give this another red hot crack. And I actually went for Miss World because I had some friends in a program, so I did that. And I became a national finalist, and I went to the Gold Coast, and it was quite an amazing experience. I met some incredible
Mm.
girls, some friends for life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And then the following year, I tried out for Miss Universe, and then I became a national finalist for that program, which is totally different, as you know. And now I'm doing it again, Miss Universe Australia for the second year in a row.
What position, you didn't just become a national finalist, I think you're being humble. What position did you come last year? Remind me.
So I came fourth runner-up, so I came fifth.
Okay. So the important question is, I mean, in terms of how you want to do this year, I think it's safe to say everyone wants to improve. But when you go into a pageant that's as big as Miss Universe, and that's the biggest in the world, do you set any expectations on yourself as to how you're going to do, given that pageantry, it's inherently subjective. So even if you've improved, on the night, the judges might just be looking for something different and you might not improve. Have you set yourself any particular goals that you want to achieve this year?
I think my goals, the goals that I set for myself, I would be reaching for with or without a program like Miss Universe. So I can only try to be the best that I can be. And I don't actually worry about how that fits into Miss Universe, funnily enough. I'm always trying to strive for more and to be a better version of myself. And whether or not that's what they're looking for with the program, that's out of my hands. So I can only try to be the best person that I can, the most confident in my skin, the most passionate about my advocacy, and the rest is out of my hands. So I think it's a very relatively stress-free approach of looking at it. It's a little bit different to how some other girls approach it, you know. There
Mm.
is a lot of strategy involved in these things, as you know. But it has gotten me this far, and I feel like I can only try my best. And I'm not going to be hard on myself. Whatever happens, I'm going to walk out of this program being a better person with a brand new group of friends and a newfound confidence.
I think that's a sensible way, dare I say, a mature way to approach it, rather than getting too hung up on where you place. Can you give me an idea, give the audience an idea what your preparation looks like on a sort of a day-to-day or weekly basis, because everyone's a bit different.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for me, physical fitness is a huge part of my life, and I definitely amp it up before state finals and national finals. For me, that includes eating nutritious foods, but still balanced. I still cannot deprive myself of my desserts, everything in moderation, and going to the gym about 5 times a week for 45 minutes each session. I feel like I could be a bit of a perfectionist at times, and I try to set these unrealistic goals, but I know that I can never achieve them because they're impossible. So I try to make sure that every day I remain consistent in terms of my physical fitness and my diet. And in terms of the other side of preparation, I feel like your mental preparation is
Mm.
very important. It's just as crucial as your physical prep. And that includes your mindset, how you think about yourself, the way you present to others, um, even your voice, having that confidence to speak up and to take up space. So the mental preparation is another element. And another facet is, I guess, the questions, running over the questions with a pageant coach and pageant coach, and I guess learning about what's going on in the world around you and just trying to keep up to date with news as much as possible. And I know it's so difficult to do. We're all such busy people, but I feel like in a program as intense as this, you can't leave things to the last minute. You need to start your preparation months in advance
Yeah.
in order to make the process as seamless and stress-free as possible. So that those are a few of the things that I make sure to do before national or even state finals.
The mental preparation, I think, is key. And I think a lot of people kind
100%.
of overlook it, or don't give it its due. It's like they do a lot of the physical training, but I think there's mental and emotional training you can do. Now, you've been, as I said, I was doing my research, you've been fairly open with some of the struggles that you've had during lockdown. I mean, God, we've all had struggles during lockdown. 2020 wasn't the best year for most of us. And you literally started a small series on IGTV called Anxiety Diaries. What has the last, sort of forgetting the pageant for a sec, what has the last, God, it's been more than 12 months now with Corona. So what was 2020 like for yourself?
2020 was definitely a challenging year for me, and I know for so many others. It was definitely full of ups and downs. There were moments when we went into lockdown in Melbourne initially where I
Mm.
felt, oh, like I did, as bad as it sounds, I did want a moment to slow down, a little chance for a breather. But I feel like we very quickly got over that, and it did take
Yeah.
its toll mentally. So it was, and to, I guess, throw another challenge into the mix, I was a finalist for Miss Universe Australia. So we had a lot of content to stay on top of and a lot of pageant prep to do. Even though the national final was held digitally, there was still a lot of
Mm.
prep to be done. So I feel like it was all too much and it was all very overwhelming. And I know a lot of my peers were feeling a similar way. So I decided to start a series to connect others and to, I guess, facilitate these conversations around mental health, because I feel like now more than ever, it is of crucial importance to be having these conversations and to be working towards stigmatizing topics around mental health. So while I started with the IGTV series, I feel like that sparked something much bigger in me and it made me realize what my purpose was. So, as bad and as challenging, I can't say bad because it was full of ups and downs, but as challenging as last year was, it gave me something um, so invaluable, and that is my purpose in life, educating and assisting and driving conversations around mental health.
How have you found? I mean, you have interviewed some people and you've done some IGTVs where you've talked straight to camera, as it were. How's it been for you? What have you felt that you've learnt about mental health in general, or the biggest misconceptions about mental health? Because I like to think that we are now talking about it more than we used to, which is a good thing. And I saw one of your episodes where you interviewed, I think it was your housemate, and you're getting his perspective as a man, which is a slightly different
Mhm.
topic. But that's also something that we need to discuss more. But in general, doing the work that you've done so far with mental health, how have you felt? What have you felt that you've learned from it, or maybe what some of the biggest misconceptions people might have about mental health are?
I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is that social media anxiety affects primarily women. And that is what we discussed with my housemate Anthony, that men actually get the brunt of that as well. Men can succumb to body image issues and the pressures of living a large life, and just, I guess, the financial pressures of having to have a side hustle and to have a thriving business as well, things that I never even thought of. So I think last year really shone a light on men's mental health and how, I guess, how we don't talk about it much. It's kind of the elephant in the room. We talk about mental health on a whole, but I feel like it can manifest differently in men and in women. So I think it's really interesting to have these conversations with every gender and to talk about how these issues present differently, because they can, they're completely different. And that's something that I didn't realize prior to that.
Speaking of social media, I mean, on Instagram, I think you have 50,000 followers, give or take. And I see you as sort of an example of a successful, like a real influencer, as in someone who's turned into a real business, not just someone who has a lot of followers.
Thank you.
I think it was a podcast episode I didn't listen to it, but I saw the headline for it, and it said that you try to spend, I don't know if this is quite right, but you try to spend as little time as possible on Instagram. So can you just run us through that? Because social media, for a lot of us, because you remember back to 2020, TikTok exploded and all of us were lying in bed until 3 a.m. Whether we were making TikToks or not, we were looking at them, and there was just scroll fest, scroll fest, scroll fest. My friend said she fell in a scroll hole. So social media and having a social media business, being a successful influencer, and mental health, how do you balance those two?
That is a really good question. And if I'm honest, I'm still working on that. I'm still working on finding that balance, because as of recently, I have been feeling burnt out just from being on social media and having a lot of work obligations, and just wanting to take a breather sometimes but being unable to. So it's interesting you mentioned TikTok and versus Instagram, because I feel like with the Instagram, people are showing their highlight reels, which can be very detrimental to people's mental health. Whereas TikTok, it is primarily an entertainment app. People are being silly, they're being goofy, and you don't get the same sense of comparison generally that you do with your peers on Instagram. So for me, an important balance is just getting on my phone, as simple as it sounds, and doing things with my family, just staying present. And I think it's so tempting to, when you're spending time with friends and family, to get a notification and just check it. It may take a split second, but it actually disengages you from the conversation and the present moment. So I find it's very important to just put away my phone and just stay as present as I can. It's sort of like a mini cleanse for my soul. And that's the main way that I go about it. And while social media has so many incredible benefits and opportunities, life is all about balance, as I mentioned earlier, and everything in moderation. And I feel like we do need to regulate it. We could regulate our children's iPad use, but we so often, who's going to regulate our use of technology, So we need to, I guess, reparent ourselves in that sense and make sure that we're staying on top of limiting technology use wherever possible, especially if your job centers around it.
If your job didn't center around it, if you didn't need it, do you think you'd still be on it?
I think that's a good question. This is what in some conversations that I've had with my friends, I said that I almost wonder if my aversion to using social media for fun comes from the fact that my work centers around it, and who wants to do their work unless it's your passion? Generally speaking, once we're done with work, we want to shut off and not think about it. So that's a good question. I feel like I would enjoy it more if it wasn't my work, but I guess the silver lining with that is I'm not exposing myself to the comparison trap by scrolling through my social media. But the other side of the coin is I'm not engaging as much as I would like to. So you just can't win sometimes.
It's difficult. I hear you on that. What is
Mm.
your favorite social media platform at the moment? Is it TikTok? Is it Instagram?
Yeah.
I would say ask Facebook, but no one seems to be using Facebook anymore. So is
No.
it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it YouTube? Is it Twitter? Is it Clubhouse? What's it for you at the moment?
I can't get into Clubhouse, honestly. Like I I downloaded it, I got the invitation, I opened it, but it just wasn't for me. For me, it just added to the noise inside my head. And I'm very, very stubborn. So I thought, no way, I am not succumbing to the trap of yet another social media platform. And I know that um I need to research it further, but I know that potentially there could be huge opportunities there. But I would say my favorite app would be TikTok because it's entertaining and it's educational. And I love that it exposes you to content creators that you otherwise wouldn't be exposed to, because on Instagram you generally follow the people and
Yeah,
that's the content that you see in your feed. But with TikTok,
yeah.
you will be exposed to fresh perspectives and fresh content. And that's what I really like about that app. And there's that anonymity factor as well.
Hmm. Who are your favorite content creators to follow, just out of interest?
That is a good question. To be honest, no one jumps out at me because I guess I guess I follow so many that it all becomes a blur, but I'm not a slave to any one content creator. I don't For me, I'm not there for the person, I'm there for the value that they bring. And there are so many that I like to follow on TikTok. Love and relationship experts, anxiety coaches. Um, Someone on Instagram that jumps out at me is Queer Cosmos. I love following him. I'm really into astrology, so I love his content is really fun. Just anyone that has a personal brand that centers around helping others, be it mental health, or Lindsay Brahman, that's another one. Um, I'm sure they'll come to me. There are a lot that I do like to follow, but I try to make sure that all the people I follow are providing valuable content and educational content around topics that are useful and entertaining to me, such as mental health or relationships and even astrology.
Okay, so just talk to me about astrology for a second, because I sometimes have quite violent arguments with people over astrology. But I mean, to what extent do you know about astrology? So if for example, if I tell you I'm a Leo, and that's all
Ah,
I
I
know.
love
I know there are other
Leos.
kinds of things and bits
Are
and
you a
pieces
Leo sun or a Leo moon?
that I don't know. How do you, what does it even mean? I just thought it was Leo. Now it's Leo sun, Leo moon. How would I know?
So I got so into astrology that at one point I researched how to become an astrologer. Let's just leave it at that. But the
Okay.
reason, and I almost regret bringing this up because my interest in mental health and then my interest in astrology, some people might think, where's the correlation there? Because one has a scientific basis and one does not. But the way I view astrology is similar to the way I view TikTok. Take from it what you want. I mean, it could be gospel for some people. They love it, they live and breathe it.
Mm,
And some people don't believe in it. But what is the harm? If you are using it as a source of entertainment, and if it, I know in a time of uncertainty, like the time that we're living in now, it gives a
yeah.
lot of people, especially young people, millennials and Gen Y, it, Gen Z, sorry, and Gen Y, it gives them a lot of comfort. So I feel like if anything in this day and age is giving you a source of comfort and entertainment and even some stability in some cases, then
Mm.
where's the harm in that? If it's helping your mental health in some way, no matter how small, even if it's putting a smile on your face for 5 minutes of the day, where's the harm in that? So I guess that would be my argument against anyone who's dead set against astrology.
No, well, that's fair enough. I think where sometimes I get a bit confused is where people say, because you said one is based in science, one is not. So mental health being based in science and astrology, not necessarily. But there are some people who will insist to me that astrology is based in science, and I don't quite see that link. But I mean, you're right.
It's like a
If it's good for
pseudoscience.
you, Yeah, if it's good for you, it's good for you. So can you actually tell me anything about what's going to happen to myself in 2021, just off the fact that I'm a Leo? I mean, you studied a
Oh, I
little bit to
wouldn't.
be an astrologer,
No.
so you can't tell.
I don't keep up to date. I don't keep up to date with it. I'm interested in birth charts, but funnily enough, I never really found horoscopes to be um, that interesting. I'm interested in people and I'm interested in their
Mm,
makeup, whereas day-to-day horoscopes of what's going to happen next month or today, that never piqued my interest. I'm not sure why, but I like to leave some things to the unknown. So that side of astrology never appealed to me. And I don't know how we got into this topic.
I can't. I can't remember. I think no. I asked you who you followed on social media, and I think you brought up an
Yeah,
astrologer.
that's
I
right.
think that's it. That's usually during my interviews, I end up forgetting how we ended up here. Um, what I just wanted to say was, so you strike me as someone who has pretty deep thoughts. You certainly seem like someone who wants to help others, and you seem quite empathic and intuitive. I mean, has that always been the case for you, or do you remember a moment in your childhood when you kind of went more that direction? Because a lot of pageant girls are very, I'm not going to say you're introverted, but a lot sort of louder just in terms of their energy. You seem to be a bit more in between. Has that always been the case for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm an ambivert. I'm neither,
Yeah.
neither or both, an introvert and an extrovert. I have always conserved my energy. Um, I I've always been my own best friend ever since I could remember, and I'm completely comfortable in my own company. However, I've got the most amazing group of friends, and they know me to be loud and silly and soft-spoken and quiet as well at times. I just yeah, I've always been this way. I'm a Gemini, so I've got the two different sides to me. But I do feel like a big part of a big reason for the way that I am is, having coming from the two different cultures.
Hmm.
Um, and it really shaped me into the person that I am. I've always conserved my energy and I've always been a very deep thinker because I was an only child for so long. So I like to
Yeah.
just stay with my thoughts and make up stories, and I'm very creative. I remember at school, in primary school. So this is the thing, being soft-spoken as a woman, unfortunately, it often gets misconstrued as, ditzy or off with the fairies. So I remember when I was
Mm.
12, my teacher said, because I was at the top of the class at the time, she was like, "You're so book smart, academically, you're academically excelling all these things, but you're just a bit ditzy." And I remember that stuck with me to this day. And I feel like that's still a sore spot for me. And even when I entered pageantry, a lot of people have actually have actually mentioned that or hinted at that. Daria, really? She's so quiet. But I've always loved to operate from a place of being the underdog and staying in my own lane. I actually, as I mentioned at the start of this conversation, I have nothing to prove to others. The only thing I'm proving is that what I could be for myself. That is one thing that I'm focused on. And the people in my life who will see that are the people that are going to see that, and I don't worry about the rest. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm going to stay in my own lane, and I'm going to talk about things that I'm passionate about, such as mental health, and I'm just going to be kind, and I'm going to be myself and operate from a place of high value, and the rest is out of my hands.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting to me that you said that comment about you being ditzy really stuck with you, because you just
Yeah.
reminded me of when I was that age as well, maybe 12, and I was in sports class. And just so you know, I went on to be a tennis coach and taught myself how to play tennis to a pretty high
Amazing.
level. Not that I was naturally sporty at all. I wasn't one way or the other. I was kind of in the middle. But I remember, and no one had taught me how to throw, bear in mind. And there was a throwing contest to see how far we could throw. And I remember my sports teacher at the time making this comment, "You throw like a girl." Now,
Oh,
he certainly didn't mean it as a compliment, right? And that's not how I took it. But it's interesting that I remember that to this day. And then
mm.
maybe to some maybe to some extent it actually formulated what I did with the rest of my life. But why do you think the ditzy comment, because there's so many comments that you hold on, that you could hold on to, why did that one seem to stick with you?
I think as a child, the very thing that I loved about myself, my creativity, was then weaponized against me, and then became a facet of myself that I didn't like. I thought I always had
Mm,
inkling that I was a little bit different in my creativity, and always daydreaming in class. But that was a pivotal moment for me because it made me, yeah, it made me think maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe this isn't the way that
mm.
I should be. Maybe I should be a certain way. Maybe I should change this facet of myself. And now, um, I'm coming back to that place of celebrating that difference and celebrating being the underdog or being a
Mm.
bit more reserved and conserving my energy, because as I said, the right people in your life are gonna see the beauty in you always. So I guess that's quite a stress-free way of looking at things.
It is. It is. Sometimes it takes some pain to get there, but it
Yeah.
certainly is a relatively stress-free way of looking at things. In terms of your creativity, because you mentioned that several times, how do you express your creativity on a regular basis? Because from my experience, people who are creative and don't get to express it actually start to feel energetically very blocked and sometimes just super depressed for no other reason than they just don't get to express their creativity. So for yourself, how does the creativity manifest?
Well, so there are so many different ways to express your creativity, in my opinion. For me, growing up, I loved doing art and painting and drawing and jewelry making, all those things.
Wow.
I loved writing stories and being creative like that. At the moment, I'm working on a business idea that is close to my heart, and that leaves a lot of room for creativity. And also in my job, I work in a mental health sector and I mentor young girls on topics based around mental health and self-esteem and their changing bodies. And uh, I think there's creativity in almost any profession.
Mm,
When you know where to
yeah.
look, when you know how to channel it, it can be done. I know so many people who work in highly analytical fields and they're still some of the
Mm,
most creative people I know. So there's so many different ways to channel it, and there's no one size fits all. And for me, I'm lucky enough to be able to express myself to an audience on my social media platforms. I love it so much. I love my favorite thing that I get a lot of good feedback on are the little graphics that I make around mental health and empowerment. And it's just so nice to see people saving and resharing those posts, and to know that the fruits of my creative labor are being praised, and
yeah.
I guess it's helping people in some way.
When it comes to people such as yourself, because before we went live, you were talking about digital nomad. There's one question I always like to ask, which is when someone asks you, what do you do? What does Daria Varlamova do? How do
Oh, that
you
question makes
answer
me
that?
sweat.
Well, that's what I
Oh,
mean, because I find it very difficult given what I
yeah.
do to explain it. And then as soon as I mention pageants, I need to explain pageants. So how do you, when someone asks you, what do you do? So what do you do? How do you answer that?
I think it depends on the person that you're talking to. If my mum or my dad were asking, I'd say, I'm training to become a mental health professional. If a friend was asking me, I'd say I'm a mental health advocate and I'm a Miss Universe Australia contestant. Some of my entrepreneur friends will be more interested in the fact that I'm starting a business. So I wear so many different hats that it could be really hard for me to even keep tabs on all of them. And I'm still
Hmm.
figuring that out. But for me, generally speaking, I'd say I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a student. I'm doing my Masters of Counselling, and I'm a mentor to young girls.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you've heard the statistics and I can't quite remember them, but I think the latest research shows people are going to have 5 to 7 careers in their lifetime. I'm not talking about jobs, but actual
Wow.
separate careers. So, I mean, you sound like you're well on your way to the 5 to 7 already.
Oh, I'm probably in my 10th. But that does sound about right. I think especially in this day and age of globalization and the digital media, it's definitely not unheard of people completely jumping to different
Mm,
career fields on the opposite end of the spectrum. So, and I think it's great. I think that's amazing. You know, life is too short to just be stuck in a career path that you've outgrown. You need to be constantly thriving. And for some people, that looks like a stable career in one field for the rest of their
yeah.
lives, but they're always progressing, they're going, they're enjoying it. And for others, it means trying new things, you know, until something clicks. For me, I feel like I found that thing. And that's not to say that I won't be changing careers in the future, but I know that I want everything that I do to be centered around mental health and helping other people in that field. So I think that's quite a simple way for me to look at it.
Do you ever struggle with shiny object syndrome? Like a lot of creative and entrepreneurial people do. And I was talking about this on one of my other podcast episodes that for some people, shiny object syndrome, where every single day you seem to get a great idea. Do you ever struggle with that?
100%. Oh my goodness. This is the bane of my existence. I have so many business ideas, so many lifetimes I want to live. I remember I had this conversation with a friend that actually gave me a lot of clarity. I said, with so many options, how do you just pick one thing? And they just said, you just kind of pick one and you just do it and see where it leads. And I was like, oh, okay. Why didn't I think of that? That's so simple. You're right. Like, I don't have to stress about all these things. You can't do everything and you can't be everyone. Or everything. You can't wear every single hat under the sun. So you do
Mm.
sometimes have to pick something and just go for it. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. You move on to the next thing. But I think people get anxiety thinking they want to do everything all at once, but just realize that there are no rules here in this lifetime. You can just pick something, go for it, and then change track, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that suffers from that shiny object syndrome. Sometimes I think like I'm a bird or a magpie or something, and every time something I see shiny, I'm attracted to it. Um,
Yeah,
we
I'm the
talked
same.
about we talked about having deep thoughts a little bit before, and sometimes this is a pageant question, but I'm not asking it as a pageant question, more as a deep thinker. Over 2020, a lot of us had a lot of time to ourselves and our thoughts. For many people, too much time. Have you given any thought to if there were one or two really big problems in the world that you, as you see it, have you given any thought to maybe what some of the biggest problems you'd like to see change in the world are? I mean, mental health is very core to you, and maybe it's that, but is there any sort of fundamental thing that you'd like to get out and change if you could?
Yeah, definitely. So, suicide prevention, that's something I'm very passionate about. And something that is very close to my heart. And we saw in COVID, unfortunately, the suicide rate rose
Mm,
drastically. So that is something I definitely want to be talking about in the future. And that is something that I'm still trying to gauge, you know, how much of this topic can I introduce to my audience while still
mm,
keeping my signature positive tone.
yeah.
But that is definitely something that is very close to my heart, and I'd love to see more conversations being had on that topic. The other one is something that has been circulating on social media for a while now, and that is, you know, sexual harassment and the way that women are treated, women feeling unsafe to walk home at night, women, you know, being harassed and
Mm,
victims being ignored, things like that. I feel like that is a huge topic that needs a lot of our attention at the moment because I know a lot of my male peers haven't even realized what it's like to be living as a woman in this day and age. You
mm,
know, even things like walking to your car and feeling unsafe, they are generally speaking, of course, a lot of them wouldn't have experienced that sort of fear.
mm.
So I feel like it's great that we're opening up so many eyes to this issue, and I'd love to see that continue.
Yeah, I was at a large seminar, probably 4 or 5 thousand people, and the speaker asked that exact question, asked the guys first off, how many of them in the last 24 hours had felt unsafe? And you see maybe out of 5,000, 1% of the hands go up, if not that.
Mm,
And then same question, but addressed at the women, and it's literally 100%. Every single one of them at some point
wow.
in the last 24 hours had felt unsafe, just even if it's walking to the car, walking home. And this is something I think it's very difficult for men to understand, even me having worked with women so much. This idea that you have to, for example, change the way you walk from the train station home every day in case someone is stalking you and learns your patterns and then somehow can get the jump on you. And that even if you do that, if they want to, if they want to because they're physically stronger, they could do it. I think it's something that's very difficult for men to understand because it's simply
Yeah.
not part. It's not part of our equation. We don't have to think about it.
Yeah, 100%. And the work that I'm doing at the moment with young girls, young women, I'd love to see, I guess, young boys and young men
Mm,
having conversations around this in schools and in workshops, because I feel like, simply opening up their eyes to this issue can have huge
mm,
positive implications for the future. I think I saw someone suggested on social media that men at night time walk a fair distance away from the girl just to make them feel a bit more safe. And I think um, for some men, they felt attacked by that, saying, they felt as if they were being painted as a perpetrator, but that is
yeah,
not the issue. It's
yeah,
simply about making women feel safer. And unfortunately, in this world that we live in, this is the best that we could do at the moment, educating and taking these steps, no matter how small, to make us feel a little bit more safe, even if it does mean keeping a bit of a physical distance.
yeah. I mean, I can understand your friends or your this person on social media's point. It's like the percentage of men who do horrible things like that is small, but it has a gigantic consequence, obviously. And there's a lot of conversation, which I think is very interesting and very important. The conversation seems to center around women having done something wrong, whereas the conversation needs to shift more to the men who are doing it. And I'm not sure that there's an easy way to do that, but it must be very frustrating from the women always hearing, well, you should have done this, you shouldn't have worn that, you should have gone there, you should have phoned this, you should have phoned that. And at some point,
A
it's like,
hundred
well, why is
percent.
it my fault? Like, why
And the
should I have
thing
to
is,
do any of that?
that's it. And it's all about finding language that is not alienating to certain groups of people, and is
Mm,
inclusive. We're not saying that all men are bad or all women are bad.
mm,
Um, I'd say most men and women are good. There are just most people are good. There's just the select few, the perpetrators that unfortunately um, make us feel that fear and that general feeling of being unsafe. So I guess until we can create a system that makes everyone feel safe, no matter what the gender, these are just the steps that we have to take and the conversations that we have to have. And it all starts with a simple conversation and simply being open to talking about this topic. Because I guess the fact that it is surprising to so many people and so
yeah.
many men that women go through this, I guess that's the issue. It's the
Mm,
surprise. So I feel like it all starts with a conversation and just getting things out and into the open.
yeah. Now, I feel like I could talk to
Oh, hello.
you.
Oh, you back? You're back. Sorry, you just cut out for a bit.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right, let me just. Sorry, my computer decided to have a heart attack. Before we move
Okay.
to the close, I feel like I could talk to you on these topics for a long time,
I
but
know. I'm
before we
actually
move to the
very chatty.
close,
Sorry about that.
well, no, you got a lot of other things to do as well. But two random questions that I remember that I wanted to ask. One, what is your favorite food? And two, how is a Britney Spears perfume?
So I'd say my favorite food is Japanese food or pasta, Italian food, specifically pasta. And I'm wearing it right now, the perfume. It's really nice. And you know what? It brings me back to my high school days in Perth. So it's a bit of a nostalgic sort of feel for me, but I really like it. Britney Spears Intense. It's really nice.
Okay. Third random question then, and this is very unfair, so you don't have to answer it. Perth or Melbourne?
I don't want to offend my friends and family in Perth. Look, it depends what you're looking for. Perth was the most incredible place to grow up. I would not trade it for the world. I would not have wanted to grow up in Melbourne, as I'm sure all the Melbourne kids had an amazing childhood, but I'm so, so thankful to have grown up in Perth with its beautiful beaches and beautiful weather. And it was just the best experience of my life. And Perth is an incredible place to raise a family, but I definitely don't regret coming to Melbourne. I love the culture, the people, the opportunities, the food, I guess, the creative industries that we have here. So I'd say Melbourne at this stage in my life.
You actually made a call.
But
I'm surprised by that.
I know. I feel this is the most political question we've had.
Oh, I try to stay away from the political questions. But yeah, but the answer basically is Perth if you want to have sort of relax and have a good time, but Melbourne if you actually want to have a job and make some money. Basically,
lucky for me, I don't have to choose. I don't have to choose because my family is still in Perth. So I go there twice a year pre-COVID, but I'm very I'm so thankful that I still have family and friends there, so I always have an excuse to visit.
Are you a coffee person?
I'm definitely a coffee person. I used to be a tea person, but I think Melbourne has brought it out in me.
So where in Melbourne has the best coffee?
Ooh, that's a tough call. I used to live around Ascot Vale, and we had some really nice places on Union Road. This is a bit of a political debate with my friends and I, so I'm not going to specify any places, but I feel like anywhere at De Grave Street, you know, there's so many good places. How do you choose? What's your favorite coffee place when you come to Melbourne?
Oh, I don't know. The reason I ask is because Melbourne is the one place where I actually feel safe ordering coffee. Like literally one of the only cities in the world, because I have my coffee black, and a lot of other baristas, they base their idea of how good they are based on the pretty coffee art. But when you just have black coffee and they don't know how to make a black coffee, like talk about America or even the UK, there's no point me even thinking I'm going to get a good coffee. I know I'm going to get some sort of ditch water that, you know, I have to pay a lot of money for. But Melbourne, it's actually hard to get a bad coffee. So I was just curious.
You know what? Australia in general, wherever I go in the world, nothing comes close to Australian coffee. They don't even know what a flat white is in other countries. Come on.
No, they don't know what a long black is, which is normally what I had. It took me like about a year to find out that they call it a cafe americano, which I found slightly insulting that I need to call my coffee an American coffee, but whatever. Okay, I'll stop asking the random questions just before we go to the final 10, because I always wrap up the interview with the same 10 questions. Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey, pageant and otherwise?
Oh, actually, yeah, I have my friend and someone who has coached me. His name is Jay, and he's from Sydney, and he's been a great support for me. He's helped me in terms of practicing questions, and he was one of the first people to believe in me along this pageant journey. So thank you, Jay. You've been amazing, and I literally would not be here without you.
Well, that was simple. The shout out is a shout out. Okay, cool.
But I mean, it's all of my family and friends, and now I'm going to go off on this long speech. I feel like I'm getting emotional. What have you done to me? all of my family, friends, but also my housemates. I think during Miss Universe last year was really difficult, and a big part of the program was the content creation. And having my housemates, Grace and Anthony, help me with the brunt of my content creation was just a game changer. I couldn't have done it without them. So it's just all of the people in my life who
Mhm.
have said a kind word or done a small action of kindness or just send me flowers or show me any kind of support, just anyone that was there for me during last year, I'm very thankful for.
Okay, so we've got a bit of a longer shout out there. I thought for a second, I've never asked anyone for shout outs, and they literally gave one.
No,
You gave the Academy Award winning speech. Okay.
sorry.
Before we play you off the stage with the music, let's go through these final 10. It's not a speed round. You can answer as quickly
Okay.
or as slowly as you want. Okay, so here we
Okay.
go. Random question number 1. What is your favorite word?
Ooh, I don't have one.
You look
Are
like
you
you were
putting me on the
thinking
spot?
about it, then you.
Uh,
Well, what's a
kindness.
word you like? Kindness.
Kindness.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
All right. I'll give you a heads up. These questions mostly come in pairs. So number
Okay.
1 was, what is your most favorite word? Question 2 is, what is your least favorite word?
Ooh. Oh, really putting me in the spot. I have no idea. Hostility.
I can give you the most common answer. The most common answer to that one is moist. People hate the word moist.
And I don't mind it. It's just a word. If anything, it sounds pretty. It's fun to say. I guess I'm thinking more. I'm thinking deeper. I'm thinking more in terms of the meanings of the words. But I don't think there's such a thing as an ugly word. But I'll probably stand corrected later. I
Well, if you think of a word that you just can't stand, then do let me know. Question 3,
okay.
in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
I guess waking up in the morning and knowing that I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, and also the ability to connect with my friends and family. That's my favorite thing to do is just hang out with them and spend time with them. And the fact that I get to live in my favorite city as well is just what's not to love.
Really, really putting Perth, throwing Perth under the bus there. That's good for you.
I love you, Perth.
Uh, okay. All right. So question 3 was what turns you on. Question 4 was what turns you off.
Uh, people, I guess, people touching me without my permission when I'm at the gym, whether it's the instructor or just, correcting my posture. I like my
Mhm.
personal space, so I don't like that.
Well, that's one thing hopefully
And
COVID was good for, is people weren't touching you. Hopefully,
yes, the
keep your
social
space.
distancing. Yeah, silver
Yeah.
linings.
Yeah. Question 5. What sound or noise do you love?
Um, I'd say the coffee machine, grinding the beans.
That is the same answer I gave when I was interviewed. So that you're in
Yay,
good company
we have
there.
good taste.
Uh, exactly. Question 6. What sound or noise do you hate?
Cardboard dragging on gravel, like a cardboard box. I hate cardboard dragging on any surface. I just hate it. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me.
You mean like when you're moving house and there's a cardboard box and you sort of got to drag it along? Okay.
Mm, mm,
You,
nah,
you're literally having a reaction
don't want to
there.
think on it.
I never
Yeah,
heard that answer before. People say styrofoam or the nails on the chalkboard or the forks
this
and
is
the
a
knives
trigger
on
for
china, but
me.
have to give people a trigger warning. Cardboard on
Yeah,
gravel. Okay. I actually have
no.
to think about what that would sound like. I might have to go outside and do it after our interview is
I'd be
done.
like, Adrian, what are you doing? Why are you dragging that box to the ground
Well, it's just I've
along the
never really thought
street?
about it before. I mean, I don't normally drag cardboard along on a gravel road, but I'll give it a go. Question 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Um, That is a good question. Teleportation. I'd love to. I hate commuting places, so I'd love to teleport. Simple as that. It will be so time efficient. It'll
Mm.
free up so much of my day. So teleportation.
Actually, now that you mention it, that's the one thing I really can't stand about traffic. About Melbourne is the
Yeah,
traffic. Your
the
your
traffic.
traffic in Melbourne when
Perth
it's
beats Melbourne
gridlocked.
in that regard. Yes.
Well, even Sydney does. I thought Sydney traffic would be the worst, but Melbourne
Really?
traffic, when it decides to get stuck, you don't move. Literally, you don't move. You're just sitting
And
there
that's
like
saying
it's a car
something.
park. Well, when I was down in Melbourne last, we drove to the Great Ocean Road. On the way back, we got stuck in traffic, and we were stuck for 3 hours. That's never happened to me in Sydney
Oh
before,
no.
and that's not an experience I'm keen to repeat either.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
so question 8: what job or occupation, other than your own, would you most like to attempt?
Oh, I, as we were saying before, there's so many things that we would have liked to do, but I feel like I've given so many things a red hot crack, you know? I've worked in disability support work, I've done acting, I've worked as a professional actress, I've done modeling, I've done pageantry, I'm working in mental health. The one thing I could say about me is that I've been lucky enough to and brave enough to try all these things.
Mm.
So I'm very happy to report and say that I've done all these things, all the things that I wanted to and being curious about.
Yeah.
But the one thing I guess is becoming a published author, and that's still on my bucket list, soon to
Oh,
come,
that's very easy.
hopefully.
I can tell you how to do that. I've done that 3 times, and I'm working on my fourth and my fifth. That's
Oh
easy.
yeah,
All the
that's
other stuff
right.
is
Yeah,
a lot harder
beautiful.
to do. So believe me,
Okay,
the other stuff, published author is easy. What is
let's
there
manifest it.
Russian for red hot crack?
I wouldn't know.
Sure. No,
I
there's-
I don't think we have such a saying. I'll probably think of it later, or I could ask my grandma, and I'll get back to you.
it's okay.
She'll know for
An
sure. She
expression
knows all
that's.
the sayings. She knows all of them. Russians are full of them.
Oh, okay. All right. Question 9: what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Mm, oh, putting me in a spot because I don't want to, come across as offensive as well. But you know what? And not because I don't respect the profession, because I do a lot. Probably something like nursing, because
Hmm.
or being a paramedic. It takes a very special kind of human to be able to do that high pressure job. And I have so much respect for people in that career field. I just don't think I would be able to handle that. So that's why I look at these people from afar and I think of them as heroes because I can't see
Yeah,
myself working in such a high pressure environment.
I'm sure you'd find your way around it in some way or another. Okay, final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear
Oh,
God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
oh my goodness. Oh wow. Um, I guess
It's okay. You can take your time.
welcome all uh all your family and friends and everyone that you've ever loved is here or will join you at some point in the future because I just wouldn't want to spend eternity without the people that I'm closest to, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, Daria, congratulations. You survived an hour with myself. Thank you so much for your
Whew.
time.
Thank you. You really got me on that last one.
Oh, I've only asked that question about 150 times now. It's
I'm really
probably out of the
curious to see
final
other
10.
answers.
Out of the final 10, that's the one that's the most thought-provoking, I think. And it's the one where
Yeah.
people's personality tends to shine through. Like you gave a more deep and meaningful response. Other people are just like, it's time to party, sort of thing. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's
it's,
really interesting. And I feel like these kind of questions, while they seem, I don't know, quite random, and sporadic, they do show people's personalities a lot. And I guess I
mm,
did get a bit deep and serious there, but that's me.
yeah. It's all good. As I said, it allows your personality to shine through. Well, Daria, best of luck. When are the state finals? It's this weekend, am I right?
This Sunday. So yes, this Sunday, April 18th at the Sofitel on Collins, and anyone is welcome to join. So wish you could join us, but you're in Sydney. That would have been very fun. But I'm really looking forward to that because the last state final last year was one of the most fun events of the year for me, and a lot of my family and friends are going to be there, and it's going to be such an incredible time, whatever the outcome, to celebrate with them.
Absolutely. Well, I would say best of luck, but I don't think you're going to need it. But I'll say it anyway. Thank you so much for your time. I'll keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. And we will speak to you next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Remember, Confessions is out. To get your copy from Amazon, head to shaw.b/confessionsbook. And I'll see you next time.